Hi guys, long time no see, no video. I've been super busy at the store building speakers that has to be shipped out. We are also in the process of redoing the store, so the store is a mess right now. I can barely move in there. Light fixtures, LED lights, shelvings, all kinds of stuff. I also bought a lot of equipment last week that I just had to get in there. So I'm doing a video from the truck today, and this video just popped into my head because I got a question, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, "Huh, that can be a good video." And it's of course about Cerwin-Vega, but this time it's about the stroker. And as we well know, the stroker was developed and engineered and patented in the late 70s, and was kind of like utilized and put into models in the early 80s. And this is where, Cerwin-Vega didn't do many mistakes or do a lot of mistakes, but this is one big mistake that they did. And that maybe goes to the top and to Gene. Cerwin-Vega and Gene Cerwinski could have done something, and since they didn't do it, that was a mistake. They made this awesome woofer called Stroker, and it was showcased to be in the SR1 and the SR2, which was a hi-fi speaker, but it was like a major, huge, freaking monster of a speaker, and it was kind of expensive too for its time. So they used the stroker in that one, took some pictures, and I think they made like a handful of models, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 pairs at the most, maybe 6, 7, 8, maybe. I know about a few. One pair was at Cerwin-Vega's little museum and showcase room, and when it sold, who knows what Stanton and Gibson and all of them did with it. And of course, there was a few friends of Gene who had SR1 and 2, but there's not many of them. They're super freaking rare, and that was it. And then they started using the stroker in a few pro audio subwoofer models, and that was it. They put it in they built some pro audio subwoofers with the stroker and sold fairly good amount of those. And then they kind of like revitalized the stroker in the late 80s, early 90s, when they did a reconstruction of it. They redesigned it a little bit, not the woofer itself, but how it looked and stuff like that, for use in cars as car subwoofers or woofers, and sold a ton of stroker car audio woofers slash subwoofers are today a well-deserved legend. But the biggest mistake they did, that Cerwin-Vega and Gene Cerwinski did or didn't do, was when they finally got the patent on the stroker, 79, 80, something around there. They should have built a hi-fi model. I know they planned on building the SR2, but because of cost, I think they discontinued it pretty fast, changed their mind. But they should have built a hi-fi line with a stroker in it back then. Yes, I know at the time they only had an 18, but that would have been fine. They could have made 2 or 3 different models, 2 or 3 different configurations, and used the 18. So that was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was, since the car audio stroker is not that much different from the original stroker, it's a little bit different cone material, a different look on the magnet, just to make it a little bit more inviting for the car audio people, and of course a more protective and better quality on the voice coil, because it has to deal with humidity and stuff like that, and heat. But when they did this in the early 90s, They could have taken those woofers and subwoofers, and since they had 12, 15, and 18, they could have taken them and made a hi-fi line like they did with like the D series, the DX series, the VS series, the AT series, the LS, the E, and you get my point. And they could have made hi-fi line containing like a 3-way with a 12-inch stroker, a 304-way with 15-inch stroker, 304-way with an 18-inch stroker for hi-fi, and made them look good like a hi-fi speaker. But they didn't do that. That could have been a freaking hot seller on the Cerwin-Vega market and worldwide. Because if you look at the sales that they had on the car audio strokers for use in cars, I mean, they sold tons of them. If they had had a hi-fi lineup, let's say they could have called it the Stroker series or the S series. Like, now I know they had the S1 and the S2 and stuff like that, but like ST, maybe ST series for Stroker, or just called it Stroker series. I think that, and I believe that if Cerwin-Vega had made a series like that, an ST or a Stroker series for home audio containing 12, 15, and 18-inch strokers, the lay of the land for Cerwin-Vega in the coming years would have probably been way different. Maybe they wouldn't have had the problems that they got in the late 90s, early 2000s, because that series could have probably carried them as their own little monster series, you know? So that was one mistake, and the biggest mistake in my mind that Cerwin-Vega ever did. The biggest mistake Gene and Cerwin-Vega ever did was to not make a hi-fi lineup containing the Stroker subwoofers / woofers. And I believe that if they had done that and beefed up maybe some mid-ranges and tweeters, maybe borrowed some mids and highs from the Pro Audio division and built a really, really cool hi-fi speaker. Or even if they used the Stroker 12, 15, and 18, and let's say they wanted to make it a little bit higher sound quality wise, they could have maybe gone to ScanSpeak or Vifa or Seas or Peerless or anyone else and sourced out mids that matched the Stroker. Of course, these would have been big speakers, because if you use a 12-inch Stroker, you probably would have had either a 6.5, two 6.5s, or an 8-inch mid with a fairly big tweeter on top. If you use the 15, again, two 6.5, maybe two 8s, or 110, and an even bigger tweeter, and probably used horns, tweeter horns. And when it comes to the 18, you probably would have done 110 or 112, or maybe even two 8s, and a very, very big, nice horn. And these would have been so cool. I mean, and maybe put some money into it and made it like a special model. Instead of using a vinyl wrap on the cabinets, maybe gone for some wood veneer and stained it and give it a clear coat and made it like a cool series. Or if you wanted to make it a little bit more affordable, you could have vinyl wrapped it like Cerwin-Vega mostly did, and still had a really cool looking, freaking awesome sounding speaker system. That in my mind, and if I think about it, over the 50, 60 years that Cerwin-Vega was in business before they sold to Stanton, well, it was 54 years. That is probably, in my mind and in my way of seeing things, probably the biggest mistake Cerwin-Vega ever did. I don't think they did anything else that was as big of a mistake. I mean, they built some cool models, they built some good models, and they built some less good models, but building less good models is not a big mistake, because you can easily change that, but you can't change or undo something you haven't done. So, and now it's too late. And they did a lot of the right things. You know, they bought Hepner, and they grew organically and good and solid and in the right way for many years. But I think that if Cerwin-Vega had made a line with the strokers, that would have been a game changer for sure. And can you imagine the sound that would have been? So that was my take on it. Just a little short video today. Biggest mistake Cerwin-Vega ever made, or ever did, or did not do, was not to build a hi-fi line with stroker woofers in them. Until next time, take care, guys.